I call this meeting to order. Do we have any report from closed session?
Yes, good evening, Mayor. Tonight, in closed session, the City Council authorized the City Attorney's Office to initiate a lawsuit to attempt to recover damages incurred by the City of Simi Valley against John and Shannon McTague by a vote of 5-0. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to ask our Officer of the Year, Tim Wiedemeyer, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rhodes,
Here.
Councilmember Litzter,
Here, telephonically.
Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Judge,
Here.
Mayor Thomas.
Here. Are there any items for agenda review?
Mr. Mayor, we do have one supplemental item to Agenda Item 5A. It is additional information that was inadvertently left out from the staff report, as well as addressing some last-minute comments from HCD, and then a minor modification to the approving resolution. And it is before you this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I move that all resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived.
Second.
Call for a vote.
Councilmember Litzter, how would you like to vote?
Yes, please.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Oh, I'm sorry. If any member of the city council may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should declare so at this time. Seeing none?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the first item on the agenda is item 1D1, presentation of an honorary resolution commending Sergeant Timothy Wiedemeyer as the 2022 Officer of the Year, and Chief Schwartz is here to present this item.
Okay. Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council, it is my pleasure to introduce the Simi Valley Police Department's Officer of the Year, Sergeant Tim Wiedemeyer. Tim was chosen as the 2022 Officer of the Year by his police department peers for his dedication to his job and his work ethic. It is now my privilege to read the contents of the honorary resolution. Whereas the Simi Valley Police Department annually selects a member of its force to receive the Officer of the Year award, and no higher honor can be received than the recognition of one's peers within the police profession for distinguished service. And whereas the Simi Valley Police Officer of the Year Award for 2022 has been bestowed upon Sergeant Tim Wiedemeyer as the officer most distinguished within the Simi Valley Police Department due to his outstanding service to the community and dedication to his profession. And whereas Sergeant Wiedemeyer began his law enforcement career serving the Los Angeles Police Department for 5 years. He lateraled to the Simi Valley Police Department in 2008 and was assigned to the Patrol Bureau until 2012, when he was selected to work in the Special Operations Unit. He went back to patrol to become a K-9 officer and served with K-9 partner Thor from 2013 to 2019. In 2019, Tim was promoted to police sergeant. And whereas Sergeant Wiedemeyer serves on the bicycle team, recognition committee, equipment committee, and the mobile field force team. He has also served as the Police Officers Association president since 2015. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Simi Valley that it hereby extends to Sergeant Wiedemeyer its highest commendation for the excellent quality of work he performs and his commitment to his profession, presented this 27th day of February 2023. Thanks, Tim.
Congratulations, Tim. Well deserved. I can tell you, this is a perfect example of the highly skilled, highly trained professional officers we have on our department. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I appreciate having you on our department, the job you do.
I just want to say congratulations, great job, well deserved. You make our city proud. Thank you.
You know, I say congratulations. I'm so happy for you. And your wife and kids are in the backyard. So you're going to introduce them, right?
So, Sergeant, we've had an opportunity to deal with each other just a little bit over the past couple of years, and everything has been super professional. I'm really proud of you.
And I want to say that I was Tim's background detective when he wanted lateral from LAPD, and I knew he was a superstar, and we're happy to have him. He came with a lot of experience and has progressed well through the agency, and we really appreciate the work you do and the commitment you have to the community. Thanks, Tim.
I will just say, Tim, congratulations. Sorry I'm not there physically, but you're well deserved. Thank you for all you do to keep our community safe and the officers so professionally. Your supervision there is just fabulous. So thank you all you do.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 1D2, presentation of certificates of appreciation to outgoing Neighborhood Council Executive Board members, and Emily Habib is here to present this item.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council. This evening, we are recognizing 10 outgoing members of the Neighborhood Council Executive Boards. Executive Board members act as a conduit between residents and the city government on matters that affect the community. During their tenure, these Executive Board members diligently reviewed, evaluated, and made recommendations to the Planning Commission and City Council on complex development projects. Several of the outgoing Neighborhood Council Executive Board members are present tonight. As I read your names, I ask that you please come forward to receive a well-deserved certificate of appreciation for your contribution of time and leadership to the community. Neighborhood Council 1, Valerie Evans and Teresa Lewis. Neighborhood Council 2, Fabienne Morales and Teresa Ramirez. Neighborhood Council 3, Doug Bamforth, Jim Bartholomew, and Sarah Rosario. Neighborhood Council 4, Kyle Marks, Joe Pachowski, and Michelle Scharf. Please join me in congratulating these outgoing Neighborhood Council Executive Board members on a job well done.
Now? This is a large commitment of time. Being a part of the city council is a great way for those that have never considered it to get involved in your city, find out more about what's going on. I highly recommend it. I wish we had more people applying. But thank you all very much for the time and commitment you made for our city. We appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 2, public statements on appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. Mr. Mayor, we have no speakers for this item. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 3A1, appointment of Neighborhood Council Executive Board members to the 4 neighborhood councils, and Emily Habib will present this item.
Good evening again, Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council. Since 1970, the neighborhood councils have served as an important component in the city government structure. They promote citizen awareness and participation in local government. They advise the City Council and Planning Commission on development projects and citizen concerns. There are a total of 16 vacancies on the 4 executive boards of the Neighborhood Council. Tonight, 15 applicants are being nominated to serve terms commencing on March 1st, 2023, and expiring on February 28th, 2025. As I read your name, will the nominees who are present this evening please come forward? Neighborhood Council 1, Alan Mann, Todd Taylor, Carol Thomayer, Kevin Yablon. Neighborhood Council 2, Sam Cohen, Jerry Placeris, Satish Shah, and Pete Strong. Neighborhood Council 3, Rachel Bystrom, Cynthia Gallo, and Fred Peterson. Neighborhood Council 4, Tracy Bodas, Don Diamond, Holly Harpham, and Amber Powell. It is recommended that the City Council approve and the mayor appoint all 15 applicants nominated to serve on the executive boards of the 4 neighborhood councils for a term commencing on March 1st, 2023, and expiring on February 28th, 2025.
Okay. Well, it's a big group. Like I said before, thank you all for making a commitment to spending your time and investing it in our city. I think you're going to learn a lot if you haven't done it before. If you have, you know what a great experience it is. So thank you very much. I have something for each of you.
Mr. Mayor, we do need a motion and a second and take a vote on this.
I move to approve the incoming city or neighborhood council members.
Second.
So we'll call for the vote.
For a vote and vote yes for me.
And please vote a big yes for me. Thank you all.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
All right. Now I can give you your pens.
Now it's official.
Now you're official. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'll be by to visit. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, we do not have any items under special presentations or informational reports this evening. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 4, public statements. During this agenda item 4, the City Council will hear public statements from the first 10 persons who have submitted speaker cards. After the first 10 persons have spoken, subsequent persons who submitted speaker cards will be called to speak during agenda item 6, which is a continuation of agenda item 4. Agenda item number 4 and 6 are the times allotted for public statements on all items other than public hearings, appointments, and informational reports. Speakers will be called on in the order in which their card was submitted. To speak for public statements item 4 for no more than 3 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Mr. Mayor, unless you have any other comments, we can begin public statements.
Please proceed.
The first speaker is Ivana Mayer.
I can start, right? Mayor Thomas, City Council, I'm here today to talk about, my name is Ivana, I live in Simi Valley, and I'm here to talk today about my blanket drive. I was hoping all of these people would stay so they can hear it, but it's fine. I'm organizing a blanket drive in Simi Valley, Moore Park, Thousand Oaks, and Westlake Village, benefiting Ventura County Animal Shelter and Simi Valley Animal Shelter. The animals are cold, and we are cold. If anybody can spare old blankets or gently used blankets and towels, please drop them off at one of the following locations by this Sunday. I will name the locations in the order of their enrollment. The Junkyard, the Birdie Bar, Kids and Things, Choice One Cleaners, BJ's Automotive, Dr. Conkeys, Green Acres, Pinnacle Estate Properties, R&R, Pet Lifestyle and Supply, Mark and Darcy, the Richardson Lending Team. And I have 2 locations in Moore Park Chamber of Commerce, Moore Park Karate and Krav Maga, PMP Management in Thousand Oaks, and Caldwell Bankers Realty in Westlake Village. I also wanted to thank all of the people who shared my posts, who talked to the neighbors, to the friends. I got an overwhelming support for this. I want to thank all of the businesses that supported that, and I want to thank Mike Pro Tem Mike Judge, who shared my posts as well. Thank you. We truly live in a wonderful city. We have wonderful community, and we have wonderful neighbors in Moore Park and Thousand Oaks. Thank you guys for listening.
Lorena Goreca.
Lorena Huereca, 1407 East LA Avenue is a place of business. Good evening, Mayor Thomas, Mayor Pro Tem Judge, council members, and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. Your care and concern for the young people in our community is clear. It is because of your support of Vista Real Charter High School that more than 2,000 students have graduated in Ventura County. My name is Lorena Huereca, and I am the community liaison for Vista Real, part of the Learn for Life network of public high schools throughout California. Every day, I see over 100 students at our Simi Valley Learning Center receive an education that is personalized to their strengths, their needs, and their goals. Most of our students needed flexible schedules so they can work, care for their baby or a sibling. Many want to save time and money by enrolling in dual enrollment over at Moore Park, Ventura, or Oxnard College. Others want hands-on training through our WIOA or CTE partnerships with companies such as Goodwill Industries, the Department of Rehabilitation, and the Career Center through VCOE. All are here to get the type of high school education that will serve them beyond graduation. Parents love the personalized model too. An independent poll shows that more than 92% of parents of high school-age kids in California agree it is important to structure school to serve individual students rather than forcing a one-size-fits-all education. We all know how tough it's been in education these past few years. On behalf of our students and staff, I'd like to offer you our sincere gratitude. Thank you for supporting a unique program like us or ours, and in turn, giving our amazing youth and their parents a choice in their education. Thank you.
Ash Packer.
Hi, my name is Ash Packer, and I am 17 years old. My life before Vista Real was not easy. My whole life, I felt different learning-wise. You see, I struggle from ADHD, which means attention deficit hyperfixation disorder. ADHD is a common learning disability and one of the most common neurological disorders of childhood. Children with ADHD may have trouble paying attention, controlling impulsive behaviors, may act without thinking, or be overly active. This was a big issue for me. I also have social anxiety. Social anxiety disorder is an intense, persistent fear of being watched and judged by others. The fear can affect work, school, and daily activities. It can even make it hard to make and keep friends. During my first year of high school, I felt as if school was pointless. This led me to fall behind in school. Only was it the summer of 2022 that I found Vista Real, an alternative school for kids like me who struggle with school and need a little more one-on-one help. Since joining Vista Real, I have received a lot from the people who truly care about my future. I have received the one-on-one help I have always needed. My teachers help me stay focused, and set personal goals for me, which I must meet daily. I and my peers go to our campus at least twice a week, 2 appointments per week, and sit with the teacher so they can help us with our work. We turn in assignments and tests and at our own pace. I am expected to graduate on 11/24/2024. After graduating Vista Real, I plan on becoming an artist. I don't know what kind yet, so don't ask. My favorite thing about Vista Real is the one-on-one help. Personally, I feel if I didn't find Vista Real, I would still be behind in school. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that was the last speaker card. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is 4A, City Council comments regarding public statement.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
I beat you, Elaine. You're not here tonight.
Well, I figured I'd wait my turn.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ash, before you go, I just wanted to say thank you very much for coming here and speaking to us. My daughter is a counselor at one of the schools, and I know one-on-one is so important, and it is not a one-size-fits-all for students. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. We really appreciate it. And Lorena, thank you for telling us about Vista Real. I know we have various schools and various entities and different things for our students, and it's nice to hear that we can find something for every student. So that's wonderful. And Ivana, thank you for doing your blanket drive. I made a mistake and went to the Ventura County Animal Shelter Commissioners meeting, and I'm now the vice chair. So I really do appreciate you for taking care of that. We can use all of the support that we can. Down in the Camarillo area, there is actually a foundation that helps raise money, but up in our area, we don't really have anything. So I really admire you and thank you for doing this for our animal shelter and all of our animals. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think tonight's public speakers were about how a single person or single entity can make a difference. And Ivana, thank you for doing what you're doing, just having an idea and running with it. And it's an amazing opportunity for us to help the animals in Ventura County. And Vista Real, by putting forward a unique program, you can help so many that need a particular style of learning. Much appreciated. And Ash, who has left, you make a difference by coming and speaking your piece, and that was awesome. So thank you, guys.
Councilmember Litster.
Thank you, Mayor, and I say ditto to what has been said already. I think it does speak to what wonderful people we have in our community. They're doing great things. I wanted to add to Lorena, having visited Vista Real Charter's location, they really do have something lovely. And I think what we need to remember, or at least students and parents who are looking for something, is that charter school means that it is funded. The funds are it is funded by our state, et cetera. And so it is a wonderful alternative. And I just wanted, I know Ash has gone, wanted to commend her when she mentioned that one of her other things she struggles with is social anxiety disorder. The ability to come and speak to us is huge, especially when you struggle with that. And so thank you, Ash, and thank you all for your comments. So much appreciated.
Yes, I think it obviously took a lot for Ash to come and speak before us because I know how uncomfortable that can be. Thank you for letting us know about Mr. Reality. I would actually like to visit it sometime. And I will be bringing blankets. Oh, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is public hearings. This is a time for testimony on public hearings on the consideration of matters as presented on this agenda. Let the record show that due notice was given as required by law, and an affidavit to this effect is on file in the office of the city clerk. All comments submitted by email have already been provided to the City Council and will be made part of the record. However, they will not be read by the city clerk this evening. Speakers will be called on in the order in which their card was submitted for the public testimony, item 5, for a period of no more than 5 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Comments shall be limited to matters relevant to this item on the agenda and may be ruled out of order if comments are unrelated to the item. The reports of city staff relating to these matters shall be made part of the record of this meeting. If you challenge in court any of the City Council decisions made here tonight, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at this public hearing. The time within which judicial review must be sought is governed by California Code of Civil Procedure, Section 1094.6. Agenda item 5A, a public hearing to approve revisions to the Simi Valley General Plan Housing Element for the 2021-2029 planning period, GPA-2021-0001, reuse of the adopted Mitigated Negative Declaration, MND, and Mitigating Monitoring Plan for the subject request, and authorize the submission of the revised 2021-2029 housing element to the California Department of Housing and Community Development for certification, and adoption of a resolution. The reading of the resolution is as follows. Resolution number 2023-08, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley approving revisions to the Simi Valley General Plan housing element for the 2021-2029 planning period, GPA-2021-0001, reuse of the adopted Mitigated Negative Declaration, MND, and Mitigation Monitoring Plan for the subject request, and authorization to submit the revised 2021-2029 housing element to the California Department of Housing and Community Development for certification. And Sean Gibson and Eric Chen are here to present this item.
Okay. May we have a report on this matter by staff then?
Good evening, Mayor Thomas, members of the City Council. The first thing I want to ask is if Councilmember Litzter can see our PowerPoint presentation on her screen. Thank you.
Let the record reflect that she responded affirmatively.
For your consideration this evening is the final draft general plan housing element for the 2021 to 2029 planning period. A little background, since 1969, California has required that all local governments adequately plan to meet the housing needs of all of its residents in the community. While local governments are not responsible for constructing housing units, they are responsible for providing the ability to allow the private market to build them if they choose. Local governments meet this requirement by adopting housing elements as part of their general plan. The general plan serves as a blueprint for how this city will grow and develop. California's housing law acknowledges that in order for the private market to adequately address the housing needs and demand for Californians, local governments must adopt plans and regulatory systems that provide opportunities for and do not unduly constrain housing development. For you tonight is the Simi Valley Housing Element team, which comprises of Environmental Services Director Peros, myself, and Associate Planner Eric Chen. Assisting planning staff in this effort are the consultant team, including Lily Rudolph from Rincon Consultants and Veronica Tam from Veronica Tam and Associates. They are also provided tonight via Zoom. The housing element does three essential things. It identifies existing housing conditions and needs. It establishes the goals, objectives, and land use policies that are the foundation of the city's housing strategy. It provides an array of state mandated programs to create vibrant and sustainable neighborhoods across the city. Our general plan and housing element were comprehensively updated back in 2012 through 2014. The new 6-cycle housing element for the planning period 2021 to 2029 is an update to address new housing legislations, including the new Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, and must be adopted by the city and subsequently through HCD certification. That's the State Department of Housing and Community Development. With that, Associate Planner Eric Chen will now provide us with an overview of the update program, which led us up to today's hearing. Eric?
Good evening. The city's housing element was initially adopted by the City Council on October 25, 2021, and was subsequently submitted to the HCD for review. Events that led up to the initial adoption include 4 community workshops at Planning Commission meetings, a preliminary Zoom conference with HCD, 1 progress presentation to the City Council, and a public hearing to receive Planning Commission's recommendation to the City Council. On January 25th, 2022, HCD responded with their findings letter, requiring the city to expand its analysis and discussion on housing needs, inventory, resources, constraints, programs, and public participation. Throughout 2022, the housing element team was making the necessary revisions prescribed by HCD and was concurrently consulting with HCD representatives to bring clarity to the new statutory requirements that reflect the state's complex and ever-evolving housing element laws. Leading up to tonight's meeting, the housing team held 2 meetings with HCD in November of 2022 and January 2023 to review revisions and receive direct guidance from HCD. This is HCD's effort to help expedite the process and avoid 2-month delay for every formal resubmittal. Throughout the process for 2021 to today, the housing element team has facilitated many opportunities for community engagement. The housing element update program includes a robust community participation plan to encourage community input throughout the duration of the project. Methods of outreach include press release, TV bulletin board postings, social media posts, city-focused newsletters, letters and flyers, email notifications, and phone calls. The participating parties include Neighborhood Council, the Youth Council, Council on Aging, CDBG Advisory Committee, Native American Heritage Commission, the Chamber of Commerce, nonprofit housing purveyors, over 60 church properties and its owners, over 300 residents and participants who registered with the city by phone and email throughout this process. Furthermore, for each revision of the draft document, a 7-day public review period is required before submitting to HCD for review. Our housing consultant, Lily Rudolph, will provide details about HCD's comments. Lily?
Thank you, Eric. So the next few slides summarize comments provided by HCD and our responses to those comments organized by general themes. The first comment is for affirmatively furthering fair housing, also known as AFH. State law requires public agencies to take meaningful actions that address disparities in housing needs and in access to opportunities for housing and economic opportunities as well. So HCD directed us to provide additional details related to the distribution of sites identified in the sites inventory by geographic out area and housing types and zoning that contribute to the concentration of lower income households, and to also expand FFH actions. And this is detailed in program 15 of the housing plan. This slide also references RHNA, RHNA, or the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, which is the number of units that each city or county is responsible for accommodating during this planning period. Next slide, please. To address HCD's comments regarding the sites inventory, we provided additional data justifying the realistic capacity of the sites based on recent development trends in the city. So for example, we can point to recent multifamily residential and mixed-use projects with densities that exceed the maximum allowable densities in the zones in which they're located to demonstrate that the densities identified in the sites inventory are realistic. We also clarified that no sites greater than 10 acres are identified to accommodate lower income units, as state law notes that parcels over 10 acres may be considered inadequate to accommodate housing affordable to low income households. Lastly, a finding has been included in the adoption resolution that the existing uses on non-vacant sites are not an impediment to additional residential development in the planning period, and additional analysis has also been provided in the housing element update. Next slide. To address comments regarding potential zoning constraints to the development of residential units, we refined Program 12 in the housing plan to revise height standards to a maximum of 4 stories and 48 feet in the very high density residential zone, and to eliminate front setbacks for the first and second stories in the mixed use overlay. And to provide some background, the housing plan section of the housing element includes 5 goals and associated policies for those goals, and 18 programs to implement those goals and policies. And each of these programs are based on themes. Program 12, for example, describes city actions to review and revise development standards and development review processes to achieve goal number 1, which is at the beginning of the housing program or the housing plan, which is a balanced community with services and housing opportunities for all. Next slide. Additional revisions to programs include a commitment to facilitating construction of accessory dwelling units or ADUs as described in Program 10, and also adding timelines and more specific outcomes and adding more meaningful actions in affirmatively furthering fair housing program. Next slide. So there are consequences of non-compliance, so not having a certified housing element. So what are those consequences? Well, the State Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, monitors for non-compliance and recommends to the Attorney General for legal action. Due to non-compliance, the following cities were forced into litigation. The Huntington Beach was sued by the Attorney General for continued inaction and settled. And the city of Pleasanton was also sued by nonprofits and the Attorney General and was suspended from issuing all building permits for over 1 year until settled. If a non-compliance case ends up in litigation, the courts can assess a fine of up to $100,000 per month. Lastly, non-compliance would deem the city ineligible for state grants, including SB2 and LEAP technical assistant grants and other critical programming, infrastructure, and transportation funds. Next slide. And I'll send it back to Eric.
Thank you. Therefore, it is recommended that the City Council adopt resolution as amended to approve revisions to the general plan housing element for the 2021 to 2029 planning period, reuse of the adopted mitigated negative declaration, and authorizes submission to HCD for certification. Staff is available to take your questions.
Any questions of staff from council members? Councilmember
I
Rhodes.
actually have.
Pardon?
So, staff, thank you for the hard work that goes into this. This is my first foray on the dais of the bureaucracy that is overwhelming to try and comprehend how we got to this place. And you guys, with straight face, sat here and delivered this report. I noted from Eric's conversation the ever-evolving law, and I appreciate that comment oh so much. I had one question from the presentation and then some thoughts and comments about the actual process that we're going through. And the one question from our consultant, I thought the setback change in this was only for first story, and now I'm hearing first and second story. Can you help clarify what I missed?
The draft housing element does include both the first and second stories of mixed-use buildings in the mixed-use overlay.
Okay, then the third story and beyond, they would then have to have the setback.
That's correct.
Okay. So for those watching, we get a staff report, and the staff report was 1,100 pages long. And it included everything that happened from the last housing element until this housing element. And for a state that values ecology, the amount of trees we killed just to get this here is stunning. I read back in those reports some comments submitted by the public, and I must say that I shared some of the same thoughts and concerns, and that was, why do we have to have all of this building in Simi? Why don't we get to control what gets developed and built in our own town? And we must provide this housing element that shows where things can be built. And we have to provide zoning that shows that we can accommodate the different housing that, units that are being forced upon us. Logical question is why? Why must we do this? Why can't we tell Sacramento to butt out and go pound sand? And the sad answer is that we don't have that option, that we get to control very little. But if we don't provide this, if we don't make room for this growth as Sacramento deems it necessary, we would then, as was pointed out in the presentation, start to lose things. The not complying with the housing element, fines. Not doing it at all, not providing what they need, could be the loss of our ability to have any control over zoning whatsoever.
Councilmember?
Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. This is a public hearing, so I would recommend that you probably allow public comments to continue. And if you have further comments, you can probably have those comments at the end of the public hearing when it's closed.
Okay.
Councilmember Lister, do you have any questions?
I do, and I don't, for some reason, can't find a raise hand function, so thank you for calling on me, Mayor. I'd like to thank you for the information provided. I too have a question for Ms. Rudolph in the presentation. Am I correct in understanding that in high density, that one of the changes that is represented in this iteration is that instead of limiting it to 3 stories, we have now said that is changing to 4 stories. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that a requirement? Do we have to? I mean, is it your understanding that if we don't make that change, they will not approve this housing element?
The city does need to demonstrate that it is responding to potential zoning constraints. And so one of those constraints that have been identified in the housing element is heights and setbacks as issues to precluding development from being developed at the full maximum allowable density.
Isn't it correct? And here's where I want to be really careful. You look through the city of Simi Valley, and currently there are no residential buildings that are 4 stories. There is one that is being built, but there does not, and that was allowed we approved that because they were offering 60 plus low income units, very low and low income units. And that was basically a concession they received to go to the additional height. Personally, I would prefer we keep that as a concession so that we can get the low income units, as opposed to say that anyone can now build 4 stories. I would hate to think that our concession then is you get to go 5 stories. So, I mean, I guess has this been vetted with the entire planning staff that we really must make this change of putting 4 stories into our housing element? Because I have some real concerns about that.
Yes, this has been vetted with planning staff, and this is after multiple rounds of meetings with HCD to try to get HCD's sign off on this housing element. So we have gone back and forth with HCD staff to try to get to a place to where they can accept the housing element. But I'll defer to city staff on how we got there.
And Councilperson Litster, the proposal for 4 stories, 48 feet is just for the very high density zoning district. We have 3, maybe 3.5 projects in the works with 4-story or 4-story components. There's a completed project which has 3 stories and a roof deck, very similar. We do also require the step back provision for those 4 stories. So we're aware of your concern. Part of the
Sorry, let me just ask before you go on to the next thing. Those that are approved, so what I'm hearing you say is they're in process of being built, but is in all cases wasn't the 48-story concession? I know we approved one literally just the last council meeting, the one before. It was a concession because of adding some affordable units, and I worry, and I like to have that as a carrot that induces affordable units. If we remove that, if it becomes carte blanche in our housing element, then no longer is that a concession to get affordable units, which we desperately need.
Yes, the projects in questions were part of concession or waiver allowances. Right. The way I see the HCD comments is that HCD, I'm not going to speak for HCD, but the code as it currently exists is precluding the density that we're being asked to provide without the concessions. They want to see that code in place, like a hard code rather than a concession, to achieve those densities. So we struggle with this requirement, but they kind of want to see that code locked in as a standard code versus a concession.
Which is frustrating, because then no longer are builders required to do it so that we get affordable units. Anyway, okay, I'm sorry.
I don't disagree with that response.
You disagree with that response?
I don't disagree with that analysis.
You don't disagree with that?
You know, like I said, we did struggle to achieve that, but this adding the 4th story does help achieve the RVH density that we're looking for.
If we do everything else but that one item, 4 stories, you're saying it would get returned to us. They will not approve it.
I can't say that they will or not. We'll just see what happens.
I can tell you it's probably unlikely. Based upon prior discussions we've already had with HCD, they're expecting that to be in there.
Did you discuss the fact that that's how we get affordable units in our community? Was that part of the discussion with HCD?
That wasn't explicitly part of the discussion with HCD, but what HCD generally wants to avoid is for developers to not be able to achieve the densities that are laid out in the zoning districts. And the only way they can achieve those densities is with a density bonus.
And our other consultant, Veronica Tams,
Yeah.
on
If
the
mine
line.
is chimed in, under state law, you are obligated to make sure that your development standards can indeed accommodate the maximum density allowed. By using a concession, you are in fact acknowledging that height is a constraint. So that it's kind of like a self-fulfilling kind of issue, that you are acknowledging that it's a constraint, that you will not be able to reach the maximum density unless you do a concession, which by law, you are obligated to mitigate a constraint when it's acknowledged as a constraint. So that is a difficult issue, but in terms of height and parking, those are two areas that HCD is very unwilling to compromise. The other thing too is that you are not allowed to assume that projects would have some kind of affordable housing, because you have to facilitate and encourage the development of a variety of housing, including above moderate income housing. But if people are not able to meet the density and you're acknowledging that as a constraint, you're obligated to mitigate that constraint.
I'm hearing you, but I've found that we've not had problem getting above market built. It's the problem is, and I'm hearing you.
But reaching the density, but in fact, using a concession is an acknowledgement that height is the constraint. So.
Veronica, you mentioned something in just your last comment I'd like just to follow up on. You talked about height and you talked about parking. Have we changed the parking requirements in this last iteration that I was not aware of?
I don't think so, but I'm just saying that in general, those are two aspects that HCD is very unwilling to compromise.
Okay, thank you. That's probably my questions for now. Well, actually, I do have one more question, and this refers more to the report than it does to the presentation this evening. As I understand it, part of HCD's concern is that we've identified all these areas that we could have denser housing, and because more than 50% of it already has structures or housing built, has housing or some kind of structure on it already, we have to show that the likelihood that could change to housing could occur sometime during the 2021, 2029 timeframe of this housing element. And so the language explains why that could very much occur. But my question is there a penalty or consequence of any kind if the housing doesn't get built? Obviously, we plan for it, we say it through the housing element, through zoning, et cetera. But if those RHNA numbers aren't satisfied, aren't met, et cetera, is there, I'm really asking this mainly for the general public, is there a penalty or consequence from the state in some fashion?
Not currently, but I think within the time frame, it very well could happen.
Which would be bizarre, but okay, just curious. I still have I'm understanding, but I really have concern. Anyway, we'll go on to comments later. That's it for questions for me. Thank you very much. Appreciated responses.
At this time, I would like to open up the hearing for anyone in the City Council chambers wishing to be heard on this matter.
Mr. Mayor, we have one speaker card for this item. Joe Pachowski.
Council, I'm going to echo what Councilwoman Litster just said. This council has consistently kept development in this city under 4 stories, with the one exception, the monstrosity at Tapo and Alamo. This Sacramento is looking to destroy suburban communities in the state of California. It's time we stand up to it. Now, you can argue that, okay, well, Sacramento's got a gun to the city's head, and we have to approve this. Well, at the same time, there is a proposed initiative for the 2024 ballot. It is called the Brand Mendoza Candel Tripartisan Land Use Initiative. There's a website, ourneighborhoodvoices.com. Numerous cities in Southern California have already signed on and endorsed it. It's high time that this council sign on and endorse that initiative as well to take back control from Sacramento. I want to urge each member of the council, with the exception of Mayor Pro Tem Judge, who's already endorsed that initiative, to sign on to endorse the initiative, and I want to encourage the council to sign on as a city. We have to stand up to Sacramento. It's time. Take the fourth story out tonight and see what they say. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that was the only speaker for this item.
The hearing is now closed. Any further comments or questions from city council members? Councilmember Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a comment to make, and I agree with Mr. Pachowski in everything except believing we should do that. The state of California is they're not going to accept our housing plan if we don't do it. If they don't accept our housing plan, it can take away our right to issue zoning permits or any kind of building permits to developers. Now, I understand that it's probably not going to happen right away. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But I was unfortunate enough to be part of the SCAG group that had to recommend the housing numbers for the Southern California area. And it was a very contentious fight. We got away with, I think, what was the minimum we could get in housing numbers. And I think I worked pretty hard at getting that for us. But Huntington Beach is leading the way right now. They're going forward with a lawsuit. I want to take a wait-and-see aspect on that, and I want to watch that lawsuit just like we've been watching the Santa Monica lawsuit against the state and their requirements for districts. I think we should approve this housing element just for the fact that for the number of reasons it gets the state off our back. And I agree completely that this is nothing more than some kind of, you could say it's a gun to our head. It's definitely a threat of litigation if we do not comply, period. And since we already have some big guns out there fighting the state on this, it's best to take that wait-and-see attitude. And if we're allowed to get involved in that litigation, we should get involved in that litigation. Thank you.
Councilmember Litster, do you have any additional comments?
I do. I thank you, Councilmember Judge. I actually do believe, as I read through the material, I do believe that we need to be very careful. I understand that this is a process where we put something there, it goes back and forth, and I know it's gone back several times. We have had, with our hillside ordinances, we've had height limits because of for the very reasons so that hills can be viewed, et cetera, and to change the character of our community at this point with one entry troubles me, and it's problematic. I personally think, I understand that the reason for that height, 4 stories, et cetera, is to be certain that they can build the density that that they want on that in that property. I would argue that you can absolutely reach that density with 3 stories. You might be talking about SROs. You might be talking about 1-bedroom units. You might be talking about studios. You absolutely can reach the density that is desired in 3 stories in high density. And the problem is once you put it into your housing element, it can never be removed. And you will have changed the nature of all development, and you will have lost the ability to basically to encourage lower income. And we have a huge disparity in housing costs. In fact, I will tell you, when I attended the economic summit that was held just last week and learned more, received more of an understanding about how Ventura County specifically, our housing costs compared to our median incomes puts us in the top 3 most expensive places for residents to live in the country. I mean, that was very disturbing. We need to do all that we can to be sure that we are trying to help build affordable units. I'm sorry, I guess because of all those thoughts going through my mind, percolating, I would approve what we've got in every way except for striking that 4th story. Now I understand if HGC may send it back to us and we'll have to have another conversation. I understand that this is not saying that we haven't made changes. This latest iteration explains where we've been diligent and in terms of identifying areas where truly housing could be built, and even though we are completely built out. In fact, as I read through the report, I believe one statement says that we have only 17 empty vacant parcels. I mean, clearly it's not that there's a lot of land we're talking, but anyway, that being said, I'm losing my train of thought, but that being said, I think you demonstrated the reasons why there can be housing built on these areas that already have structures, but I would strongly encourage us to approve everything but the one area that dictates that we're changing it to 4 stories. So that's that is actually my encouragement, because I think once we've done it, we cannot step back. I think it's worthy of having one more iteration with HCD, because as I said, we're saying again, I think we can meet the units. Certainly builders like to maximize the size of units, but you absolutely can meet the density with three stories. You just have smaller units if that's what they want to do in terms of density. So I've said my piece.
Councilmember Judge. Oh,
I didn't leave that. Sorry, I left that on there.
okay. Councilmember Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilwoman Lister, I hear you, and it's frustrating. What I want to do is also compliment staff on how they wordsmithed and wrote that 4th story in. You remember that council approved an apartment complex in the Tapo corridor that had this stair-step back 4th story, and because of the design element in it, it actually is going to be a not so visible 4th story. With the setbacks for the 3rd and 4th stories, it's not like we're going to have monolith from street to 4th story solid walls, and I think that having that setback remain in there, I wish I'd gone to I wish I'd read it correctly and that it was starting at the 2nd story. But if we're going to go to 4 stories, which I'm fairly convinced that if we send it without the 4th story, it's coming back to us, and probably with more things that they're going to want to have concessions on, that having that setback in addition to the 4th story is it was a way of giving away something we've already given away. Now, to your point, Councilwoman, that we got that because of the concessions to affordable, and so good on us. I think that we need to still be seeking affordable, but I think that the 4th story fight is probably not where we want to stake that flag.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to bring us back to, I remember when that 3rd story on that building at Erringer in LA was a big brouhaha. I don't know if the rest of you do. Simi was always a 2-story town. So from the time I've lived here. I really want to thank staff. You guys did a really great job, and working with Rincon Associates and Veronica. This is a very confusing and very detailed and obviously 1,100 pages worth of information. So for your expertise, I thank you. Thank you, Eric and Sean. Density and developers, we have no control over what the developer chooses to do, pretty much. Well, I should rephrase that. We can't make a developer come here and build a building the way we want it built. The developer's going to come here, find a property, and decide how they want to build it, and then hopefully we have some say and are able to put some of our design ordinances in, put some of our rules in effect to cover that. But HCD, we already got our hand slapped the last time we tried to say no. We got 2 slaps, as a matter of fact. That's the only reason that the Tapo Alamo project is ongoing. I'm not happy about adding the 4-story. I'm not at all. Again, like I said, 2 stories, 3 stories is even the max I would like to go. The setbacks at the second floor, at least that is a little bit more visually attractive and won't be so massive when you're driving down the street. I've driven down the street somewhere down in LA where they were 4 stories right to the sidewalk, and I know that's not what we want, Simi Valley to be. We don't want Simi Valley to be more housing no matter what. I know I hear that all the time. And I'm like, well, okay, I've been here 50 years. I didn't want half the housing to come in that wasn't here 50 years ago. So unfortunately, we can't always say that. We are a growing community. We're a great community. I take pride in the fact that everyone wants to live here. So I have to look at that as a positive. So if we want people to come and live here and enjoy our community, we need to be able to provide them the housing that they can afford. But our affordable housing right now it's atrocious. I mean, I've seen, what are they, $600,000-$700,000 for the least expensive items that we've got going. But we can't make a developer do affordable housing. So if we allow a little bit more housing to be built, maybe that will bring the pricing down a little bit. Isn't that Sacramento's goal, is to get quantity over quality type of thing? We may not have to like it, but I think we're going to have to work with it to a certain degree. And we can go back and remove this, I understand, from our housing element. Can we not? If we put it in now? If we were to put it in now, and what Mr. Pajowski was talking about with the 2024 ballot, we would be able to remove this 4-story element if
there was a change in state law, then we
Right.
can certainly comply with it.
Okay, so we're not tied in and locked into it if that happens. Okay, so that's good for everybody to know. I think those were kind of the comments that I wanted to make. Again, thank you, staff. It's not a happy report to have to give, but so thank you for your expertise.
Councilmember Rhodes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had one more comment about building affordable. And we don't authorize the building of it. And the reason that affordable housing doesn't get built is because it's really too expensive to build. It doesn't pencil out. And the solution to that problem and the solution to the Sacramento pushing their restrictions on us is voting. And until we break the supermajority in Sacramento, we can actually write laws or repeal laws that have this stupidity in it. We are in the situation that we're in. Hopefully, we can remove the restrictions and build affordable units. Hopefully, we can remove restrictions and take back some control of our own zoning. But for now, I'm in support of this housing element moving forward, and then working to get other legislations done or working to get other people upstate.
Councilmember Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make it clear to the public, people watching at home, people in the audience, that this council is by no means bowing to the will of California. We do not like California's overreach and their stripping of municipalities of their local control. We want to speak out loudly about that. We don't have that platform right now. We're waiting for it to come up. If you sat in the closed sessions like the rest of the council and the mayor and the rest of city staff and saw the prices we pay in lawsuits and litigation, you would think twice about saying we have to fight the state at every turn. The state wins. The state has the deep pockets right now. We're hoping for lawsuits coming forward that we can join into to fight the state on this, because we can't do it alone. To try to do it alone would bankrupt our city, period. So understand that this city council is not bending over for the state of California. We don't like what they're doing either. Thank you.
And Fred, Mayor, I'd like to speak again.
Councilmember Lister, go ahead.
Okay, I want to make it very clear that I think that I will be voting no if it goes through exactly as it is. We can meet the density, the high density that the California state wants with 3 stories. And we agonized over all the areas, if you recall the discussion in the past 2 years, the housing element, where we made sure that the property was zoned that we could accommodate all of our RHNA numbers with the current density. With 3 stories, we made sure that there was ample, and that wasn't even counting all of the additional ADUs, et cetera, that are popping up that are part of the numbers that will even enhance our RHNA numbers. We can meet those numbers without going to 4 stories. And I think once you put in your housing element, you can say, well, you can take it back out. It never happens. Once you step forward, you don't step back and say, just kidding, we're going to downzone something. What we do by going to 4 stories, what we do is we lose that opportunity for a developer to come to us and say, I'd like to go to that point. And we say, okay, fine, do it, and give us 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units of affordable. And they have done it, and they continue to do it. Every single development that's going to 4 stories has given us, they've made a concession, they've given us some affordable housing units. And so I think we should be really careful. Our planning staff has done a marvelous job of negotiating, going back and forth. I think we should have everything in it except allowing for 4 stories. And I'd be willing to bet there are other cities that have not gone to 4 stories in their element. Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. I just want to make it very clear that I feel strongly that we need that removed, because otherwise we've lost our ability to help to cause developers to build affordable. They'll maximize, which is natural. You maximize your profit, and you're going to go to 4 stories, and they no longer will have to provide those affordable units, which is what RHNA is all about. We have a certain number of affordable units for very low, for low, et cetera. And those are ones that are so hard to come by. Anyway, so I just want to make it very clear how I'm going to vote if it goes forward exactly as it is. I would like to move that we strike just the language that takes it to 4 stories. Everything else is excellent. Appreciate all the work that's been done. Appreciate our outside consultants, et cetera. Thank you for your work. Now, we strike that one element. The worst that can happen is HCD, excuse me, use the acronyms correctly. HCD comes back and says, you have to have it. And at that point, then we'll have the conversation again. But I don't think we're at that point, and I think we really should keep that as a way to get affordable units in our community. So anyway, that's my position. I would encourage us to really think carefully about this.
Okay, thank you. I understand your point of view. I do. The concern I have is that we've submitted it, and it's been returned 3 times now without it. And, there's other costs to this. I mean, it's been months and months and months now. We have a first-time buyer program that's basically not going to get funded until this gets approved. I don't know, and it takes them, 2 months to get back each time. And I agree with that. I just feel like that we're, between a rock and a hard place on this subject is how I feel. And I think we should do everything we can to try to finally get this thing approved so we can move forward. Do we still have the consultants available? I just would like to ask them if they have any comments based on the questions brought up by council.
Good evening, Council. I don't have anything new to add other than to reiterate that the 4 stories would only take place in the residential very high zones, and that if height is demonstrated to be a constraint, then we need to address it. So nothing new, but just wanted to reiterate those 2 points.
Okay, thank you. All right, I see no other discussion.
And it's interesting. I just got to make one last comment. I'm done. In the report, Well, my understanding from the report is the strongest thing that HCD was, the biggest point was they wanted to be sure that we could justify that this housing really could be built because areas identified already have structures. That was the biggest concern of HCD. Nowhere in the report did it say the biggest concern was that we had not articulated that fourth story. And so I'm surprised that if it is that big an issue, that it wasn't mentioned in the report. In my mind, the other areas were what was driving HCD returning to us. I'm sure they'd like it all, but I find that interesting. I think we might be giving something away unnecessarily. And I understand things can take time. But the fact that we're still in the discussion, we're arguing, we're acting in good faith. If it takes a little bit more time, so be it. But I think there's a good chance that they would accept it with everything else you've put into it, minus that one element. Okay, I'm done. Thanks.
Okay. Any last comments? Seeing none, I need a motion.
May I make a motion, Mr. Mayor? I move to adopt resolution number 2023-08 to approve revisions to the Simi Valley General Plan housing element for the 2021-2029 planning period, GPA-2021-0001, reuse of the adopted mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring plan for the subject request, and authorize the submission of the revised 2021-2029 housing element to the California Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, for certification. As amended.
Second.
When you say as amended, I'm sorry. As amended with no fourth story, or as amended with,
As amended pursuant to the supplemental report.
Yep. There was a change to the resolution.
right. I just wanted to understand what her as amended was for. Would you entertain a friendly amendment to include also no fourth floor in the very high density?
That wasn't the
We
motion.
already have an existing motion and second. Right? Call for a vote.
Please vote no for me.
The motion passes with Councilmember Lister voting no. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 7, the consent calendar, and there are 2 resolutions for your consideration this evening. Consent item 5, resolution number 2023-09, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley amending the city's 457 deferred compensation plan document for designated city employees. And consent item 6, resolution number WWD-291, a resolution of the Board of Directors of Ventura County Waterworks District Number 8, declaring a WSCP Stage 2 water supply shortage and rescinding resolution WWD-286.
Mayor, if I could, I'd like to have us discuss item 6.
Mr. Mayor, I move we follow through on staff's recommendation for items 1 through 5 in the consent calendar.
Second.
Call for a vote.
Vote yes for me, please.
For consent item 1 through 5, the motion passes unanimously.
Okay, item 6. Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have staff available to answer any questions regarding consent item 6. If you'd like a brief report, I think we can probably provide one for you.
I'm not sure what my fellow council members would like. I just think that water's been such a big issue for our residents, and I think it's worthy of having a little bit more discussion.
I was,
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to recommend the same thing and pull it up just because I believe that this was worthy of a public discussion because it is a big topic.
Good evening, board members, chairman of the board and board members, Waterworks District Number 8. Yeah, this is, we're on the roller coaster for sure. What happened last year, just taking you back 1 year, we had an extremely wet December, you'll recall, in fact, and an extremely snowy December in the Sierras, which led to a lot of optimism early in the season, followed by the driest January, February, and March in California history. And not only was it dry, but it was sunny and relatively warm for that time of year, which led to a lot of loss in the snowpack before you want to lose it. Because the reservoirs fill when it's raining, and what you count on is keeping that snowpack cold until the reservoirs start to drain in April, May, June even, to allow a more slow refilling of the reservoirs. What's happened so far this year in comparison is we've had a robust precipitation, once again sustained, not just in December, but January was record-setting, cold temperatures and continued precipitation even this week, another 5 foot of snow in much of the Sierras. Reservoirs are near capacity, or some of them. Some of the smaller ones, Oroville is over 50%, the major one, and the snowpack is way above average and nearing record levels. And it appears that it's going to be sustained for the type of refilling that would take us out of the drought. That said, there's caution to be had. We could still see an unusually warm and dry March and April, and we could lose some of that snowpack before it's time. And conditions could still, and there's concern that the portfolio managed by Met, I think you've seen the headlines that there's controversy in the Colorado River allocation. The Colorado River is not only suffering its own drought, but it has a structural deficit. It can't deliver its ultimate obligations, even under the best of conditions. And it's asking its partners amongst the 6 states to agree on a plan. That agreement has not been fully reached, and there could be some reduction in the amount of water that California sees from the Colorado. In that case, should that come about, MWD would suffer a loss, one of its primary resources to its portfolio. So while the state water project and the snowpack looks great, there is advice for caution with regard to the rest of the season and the Colorado River supplies. That being said, Cayugas took action at its meeting on February 15th to lift the current emergency water conservation plan requirement to enforce a 1 day per week watering restriction on all residential properties, and suggested that purveyors or water agencies could increase water use to up to 2 days a week. And given that, and given the sacrifices our customers have made with the dying lawns and stressed gardens, we thought that it was timely that we bring this to the board for consideration, that you look to lessen the requirements of the watering restrictions and move to a stage 2, which would allow the immediate increase to 2 days per week watering. So that's the background on it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And Joe, just real quick, if you can touch on, Callegas's decision to take that action was based upon discussions they've had with Metropolitan Water District and anticipating that Met will take a similar action at their meeting on March 14th. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. And Callegas did act in advance of Metropolitan based on the data. They looked at the data, they said it's really strong data that indicates drought conditions are improving, that there will be a lesser drought or perhaps even no drought, knock on wood. But Metropolitan said, yes, we're preparing for that, and we'll be ready to tell our community in March. And Callegas was in meetings with Met and said, we don't think it's worthwhile to wait. We think we should let our customers act quicker. So that's where we're at. Yes, exactly.
So, Mayor, I do have a couple of questions when it's my turn.
Councilmember, let's go ahead.
Thank you. I understand that we are stepping back from stage 3 to stage 2, which basically means watering will be twice a week, Tuesday, Saturday, or Wednesday, Sunday, depending on your odd or even numbers. My question is, and of course we've had so much rain, et cetera, I suspect no one's watering right now. But my question really is, how long were we in stage 2, at what point, and what will it take to basically have to go to a barometer that says, water, that we trust our residents to water as needed, and not mandate what days they water? What will it take to get to that point? And when did we step up to 2? What was the point that we stepped to 2 days a week, I guess? That's what I'm asking.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand the last part of your question. What would it take? I think it would just take continued precipitation in California for us to see this drought fully end and for us to remove all drought restrictions.
So
I don't think our suppliers aren't fully confident of that quite yet, but they're reasonably confident that we can exit the current emergency that we're in.
I appreciate that, Joe. Thank you. And I guess what I'm asking is maybe a little historical context. How long were we in stage 2 before we moved to stage 3? Was it for years? Was it half a year, 1 year?
It changes so frequently. I really don't remember. We've probably been in an irrigation restriction for well over a year, maybe close to 2 years at this
But
point.
we went to stage 3 in April last year.
Right. So we were in stage
Now,
3 in April of last year.
But when did we go to? I guess what I understand that we want to do it in steps. I'm not in any way saying we shouldn't argue. I'm just trying to give people hope that there will be a time, assuming we get out of this drought, that they will have their freedoms to water on the day that feels correct for them. And I understand that that we're removing also the fines, or the basically the response, we're the enforcement of these 2 days a week with this motion. But I'm just trying to understand when we stepped into this initially, whether we've been in it for years, where people have only been allowed 2 days a week, or has it been ongoing for maybe just a couple, for a year and a half?
Just some context to it. We've been in a drought for 3 years to this point. So
Okay.
along the way, we have taken measures to advise the community and direct reduced water use. I wanted to correct one thing too. We are actually currently, until you take action tonight, assuming you take action, we're in a stage 4 currently, not a stage 3. So we are actually recommending you step down 2 steps. So we aren't.
Got it.
And I'll admit, other communities we're talking to are talking about 1 step on the ladder at a time. I think we have enough assurance that the conditions are right that we can take this step.
I think, just to add on to Joe, I think the concern of getting to a point where we're no longer regulated on how many days we can water is probably going to be incumbent upon what happens with the Colorado River. Because at the end of the day, if Metropolitan is not getting the quantity of water they were anticipating from the Colorado River, you're going to see permanent changes at some point to accommodate that. So I think that's part of the problem, is that at some point in time, we may know, but we may never, unless the state can solve Colorado River, we may not get out of a limited number of days of watering. And that's speculating, but it is possible. We may not leave that point.
Thank you for that information, both of you.
Seeing no other questions, can I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion. I move to adopt resolution number WWD-291, declaring a stage 2 water supply shortage and rescinding resolution number WWD-286, suspending the water shortage emergency.
Second.
Call for a vote.
Please vote yes for me.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 8A, second reading of ordinance number 1348, amending Article 1 of Chapter 1 of Title 3 of the Simi Valley Municipal Code regarding exemptions from the business registration and tax requirements for charitable, religious, and nonprofit organizations. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. Ordinance number 1348, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley, amending Article 1 of Chapter 1 of Title 3 of the Simi Valley Municipal Code relating to business tax certification, and staff is available for.
Do I have any questions?
Move second reading.
Seeing none, then I'll call for a vote.
I'll move second reading
I'm
of the
sorry.
motion.
Second?
Okay, very good.
Vote yes for me, please.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 10A, City Council member reports.
Councilmember Lister, please.
Thank you. And I'm sorry not to be there physically, but appreciate that I can attend remotely tonight. Just a quick summary of some of my activities the past 2 weeks. On Tuesday, February the 14th, I appreciate doing some phone interviewing with Councilmember Rhodes for a gentleman who is now seated on Neighborhood Council 1. Actually, I'm not sure which, it was Council
2.
1. It was it 2?
Yeah.
I'm glad you know what I was doing. Thank you. But also that evening, I will tell you that I did attend the Neighborhood Council 2's meeting, and I was impressed that on Valentine's evening they had a full board, and they were discussing floodplain, excellent floodplain presentation, and they met at the Cultural Arts Center, and I'm the liaison for that Neighborhood Council at this time, and appreciate their efforts and wanted to thank them for showing up on a night when many of them might have wanted to be elsewhere, but they were all there serving diligently. And Fred Helsel gave a tour of the facility as well, and was there and representing the city well as well. On Wednesday, the 15th of February, I attended the Simi Valley Arts Commission meeting, also held at the Cultural Arts Center. It was an important meeting because we spent most of the time finishing our bylaws. That commission has been operating without formal bylaws, and so the bylaws have now been completed, and I believe will be coming before this body for a vote sometime in the near future. On February the 16th, I actually got to see my daughter Lauren, who completed her esthetician school training at Simi Valley's Institute. Appreciate the good education that takes place there for our many residents. On February the 17th, congratulations. I attended the swearing-in ceremony of our Police Chief Steve Shorts. It was wonderful to see the many, many people in attendance and many people there for supporting and excited about his being our new police chief, and appreciate his service. On Saturday, February the 18th, I attended an event at Simi at the Gardens where a large service project was taking place, where people were cleaning overgrowth and spreading ground cover and putting up sticks for support, et cetera. It was just a big work project. And it's really a jewel in our community. And I wanted to actually thank the Simi Valley Seventh-day Adventist Church, who owns the property and who leases it and allows that to be used for that purpose. I know that we have some amazing gardeners in our community, and they also provide fresh produce for those in need. Anyway, just a beautiful place. Happy President's Day on the 20th of February. I hope we all appreciated our form of government that gives us the freedoms that we have. On Tuesday, February the 21st, I did attend, as I referenced earlier, the CERF meeting, the Center for Economic Research and Forecasting 2023 Ventura, which was held in Thousand Oaks, which basically talked about or gave the economic forecast for our county and a couple of things. There were lots of information gleaned there. We're kind of in a period of small growth, but as I referenced earlier, and I think we need to really be mindful of that we are living in the third most expensive area in the country in terms of the ratio between our average income and the cost of housing. And so we need to be very mindful of that as we make our decisions going forward. But appreciated Matthew Feinup in his presentation. On Wednesday, the 22nd, I attended the Chamber of Commerce legislative meeting where they discussed legislation that's before the state and the federal level and some of the legislation specifically that will affect businesses. On Thursday, February the 23rd, I attended the Soroptimist Live Your Dream Award, and I saw some of the grant funds that we've helped provide bless the lives of many outstanding women, and appreciate their efforts and what they do to be sure that women who are single mothers or are struggling to support their family and further their education, that they are really giving these women a hand up. So thank you to the Soroptimists for what they're doing. On Saturday, February the 25th, I was slated to be the speaker at Simi Valley Baseball League's opening day, and of course it was so torrential with the weather, and they regretfully had to cancel that wonderful gathering. But I wanted to at least commend them for what they're doing, even though they couldn't have their opening day, which they've been planning for months. Simi Valley Baseball League was established in 1978. They are now part of the Babe Ruth Baseball Association, but my son played baseball there, and just what they do to support and build our youth is just outstanding. So hats off to them, and hoping that fields will dry out soon so that they can really be playing ball soon. And want to thank Kelly Bealey and her team for the great program they had that Saturday, this past Saturday in the Read Across America. I know several of you on the dais also were there. We read to young people, but it was really a great activity there at the library. And I want you to know that my granddaughter, who went with me, took home her rag doll that she got to make there and hung it on her wall immediately because she was so proud of her accomplishments. So I again thank our library staff and for the great things they're doing to support reading and the education of our youth. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Thursday, February 16th, I attended the Ventura County Animal Services Commissioner meeting. We meet quarterly. It was down in Ventura at the Hall of Justice. Mara and our new employee, Cynthia, I believe it is, were there with me, which was very nice. Again, like I said, we reelected chair and vice chair, and so I'm now the vice chair. Supervisor Matt LaFleur is our chair, so it worked out very nice. But I did want to compliment we have great staff at our animal shelter, and they really do a fantastic job. We have over a 97% live release rate for dogs, and that's almost unheard of. We have little less than that on cats, but that's more because of the kitten season where we get all the feral kittens, and they'll get kittens in that are just too young to survive. But they're very proud of their live release rate, and they do a great job. They have great volunteers. They have over 200 volunteers now working at the shelter. They serve 8 of the 10 cities here in Ventura County. Jackie Rose is the director, and the deputy director is Donna Gillespie, and she actually lives right here in Simi Valley, so that's kind of cool. We went over the recent activity going on there. Is, if anyone doesn't know, we're rebuilding the shelter. It really needs to be rebuilt. It's extremely old. It's older than me. So, no, maybe not, but close to it. So the architect has been hired, so that's a first step. They're working on that. We don't have the dollar amounts yet, but the county did give us $10 million to get it started. So once the architect gets his design done, we'll be able to do a little bit more there and a little bit of fundraising. The shelter handles up to 200 animals a day, and we handle about 25 here in Simi Valley. We have our own small shelter. It is part of the same commission, but we own the property here in Simi, but we lease it to the county for a nominal fee. We served over 6,500 animals last year, and a lot of fosters and pet retentions. And we've been really, really doing great in that area. I'm very proud of our animal shelter and the commissioners and all the employees that work there, and the volunteers just go out of their way. They're really great volunteers there. So I want to say thank you to them, and thank you to Ivana for collecting all those towels and blankets. They will just really love that. That same day, it was busy for me. I had the EDC board meeting with the full board, and one of the key things we went over a lot of stuff, but one of the key things they went over was the film commission. So the EDC is actually the county's film commission liaison, so they take a nominal fee, and I just get so proud because every time they show the numbers, guess who's first? Simi Valley. We just do a really great job in our filming, and that's between the city and the park district. Between the two, they do really well. But they gave us some numbers. So just in 2022, for the county-wide, there were 1,515 permits issued for filming, and it equaled a total of 4,873 film activity days. So that's just for our county. So that's really a great income source for all the cities and for the county itself. So I just wanted to remind people of that. And we have a film liaison with the chamber here also. So they all work together in some way, shape, or form. Unfortunately, I did miss the Read Across America. I was sick this past weekend with a cold. Grandchildren do that to you. But my favorite thing is I did want to say congratulations to our chief. I attended his swearing in. The entire city council was there, along with everybody else in town and all other police agencies and rangers, and he was very well represented out there. So congratulations, Steve. And tonight was your first official night with us as chief. So there you go. Very good. Congratulations. We're very happy to have you. That's the end of my report.
And I apologize for going out of order, Councilmember Rhodes.
To be the rookie. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On February 14th, I participated with Councilwoman Litster with the interview of the applicant for Neighborhood Council 2. Also on that day, Mayor Thomas and I toured the Callegas Water Facility. There are some very smart people looking out for our water needs, and that facility is kind of amazing if you get the opportunity. The 15th, the Chamber Economic Development Committee call. I was on that. Also on the 15th, we had the Simi Valley Arts Commission, and under the great stewardship of Councilwoman Litster, we finished the rewrite of the bylaws. So good job to the committee on that. On the 17th, swearing in of the chief to a packed house for a wonderful leader and a humble man. It was great to see you finally installed. On the 21st, I also attended the Surf Economic Forecast. It's interesting to see people looking into the crystal ball and seeing what's in store for Ventura County. Also on the 21st, I got to tour the Cultural Arts Center. And thank you to the team over there for showing us all the ins and outs of what goes on, the multiple stage units that are there, and the multiple uses of the building. Is a truly hidden gem, and I'm going to do my best on the Arts Council to help cast that wide so we can use it even more. Also on the same day, on the 21st, I got to tour Simi PD, and a peek behind the curtain is always enlightening. To all the staff that I met and those I've not yet met, thank you for the great work and seriousness you bring to what can be at times an unthinkable reality. The dedication, hard work from all the people I saw there was outstanding. On the 21st, ribbon cutting for Simi Spine and Wellness. Deb, you will be missed. Sean, you're going to do a great job. On February 22nd, there was a SCAG new member orientation, and a trip downtown will enlighten you in many ways. I got off the freeway to go to the very shiny building where SCAG is located and passed by hundreds of yards of tents and people on the streets. We cannot let that happen here, and all the work that we are going to do as your council will be to fight that. The education was great. I got to meet more folks from Ventura County that are on SCAG, and good chance we'll actually be carpooling because the three of us are also on Clean Power Alliance, which meets right after in the building next door. See, on the 23rd, the mayor and I got to tour the Simi Library, and what's interesting about our library is what's to come. It's being run really well now, but they're looking to the future of what is the future of a library look like, and I look forward to working with them, including a possible coffee shop, which would be nice. Immediately following that, we toured the senior center, and who knew? An incredible service provided to a community of which I now belong. So that's made me sad. On the 23rd, I did a special thing. You might know that the Simi Chamber is having a job fair tomorrow, and it's a great opportunity for employers to meet potential employees, but I had the idea that maybe if we want to battle the homelessness problem, we should try and find someone in the community that might need jobs and might need help getting there. So we arranged with the Samaritan Center to have a job interviews preparation, so including dress, interview skills, and resume building. I want to give a special thanks to Tim Harrington and Tamara Nowlin for coming out and doing the mock interviews and working to redo the resumes for folks. For those who were in the program, good luck tomorrow. I hope it works out well. And finally, on Saturday, I got to do the Read Across America, which I was looking very forward to, and not that it's a competition, but I killed all these guys. I read Skippy John Jones, which was absolutely my favorite book to read to my kids, so I got to regress about 20 years, and it was a great time. And that's the end of my report, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Wednesday, February 15th, I attended the Simi Valley Police Foundation meeting in the morning. We were looking forward to it at that time for the chief's swearing in on Friday. On Thursday, February 16th, I was voted in as the vice chair of the VCREA committee here in Ventura County. Yay. On Friday, February 17th, I was here for the swearing in of our brand new police chief. And again, I can't say much more than it's already been said about the man. He's going to do us a great job and a great service, and I look forward to his accomplishments. Tuesday, February 22nd, I too attended the SURF, the economic forecast over at Thousand Oaks City Hall, put on by Cal Lu. Yeah, it wasn't the rosiest of pictures, but it wasn't horrible. That evening, I attended the grand opening of the Simi Valley Spine and Wellness. Again, just like Rocky said, good luck to Deb, and Sean's always a great chiropractor. Wednesday, February 22nd, I attended via Zoom the Cayugas Drought Task Force, where we learned what we did tonight by dropping us down to stage 2 in the drought. And hopefully that'll change. Most of the time that changes historically, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but the state gets all giddy about stuff come end of April. Yeah, so we won't know until then. On Thursday, February 23rd, I attended the Seroptimists International Live Your Dreams Award over in Los Robles Golf Course in Thousand Oaks. Again, you can't say enough about the Seroptimists. They do a great job, and the women they celebrate are outstanding character. They epitomize what the American dream is and how you can build yourself up to it. It was great, especially their major recipient. Her story was very moving, touching how she escaped from an abusive marriage in Iran, of all places, came here. Amazing. On February 24th, I have to say happy birthday to my firstborn. Michelle turned 28. Congratulations. On Saturday, I did not attend Read Across America. I'm sorry, but I did just happened to not get that one in my box. So I'm sure Rocky did a great job in my stead. And on February 28th, I attended a Chamber of Commerce Leadership first annual bowling fundraiser. And I want to say thanks to Carolyn Johnson, who was there also. I think she's on the leadership class this year. Yes, she's in the leadership class of the Chamber, along with a couple of our police officers. We have another city employee in there too? Or Heidi. Perfect. That's a great, talk about learning how the city works and stuff like that. The Chamber does a great job doing that. And that's my report.
Great. All right, let's see here. So on Tuesday, February 14th, Councilmember Rhodes and I attended the briefing at Clevis Water District, and I found it to be very interesting and very good news when we heard, what the outlook was for our water. Wednesday, February 15th, Economic Development Meeting. Let's see here. Friday, February 17th, of course, swearing in of our new chief. It was a very well-attended event, and as it should have been. Let's see here. February 21st. Took a tour of the Cultural Arts Center and got a behind-the-scenes, story about, how the whole thing works, and a nice venue. Then in the afternoon, we met at the police department for a tour and a very meaningful conversation with our new chief. That was a good meeting. Later that day, ribbon cutting at the Simi Spine and Wellness. And then Wednesday, February 22nd, Chamber Legislative meeting. Looking forward to those in the future. That was interesting. See here. Thursday, February 23rd, went to the movie studio, Allied, for the Simi Valley Tourism meeting. What a cool place that is. And kind of got an update of what's going on, and we're going to be meeting again to discuss that further. Then, let's see, same day, the 23rd, took a tour to Simi Valley Library. Some passionate people over there running that operation. I didn't realize how big our library was, but they have some big plans moving into the future, and they're keeping up with the times. Library is going to be a different place in the future. And then a tour of the Simi Valley Senior Center, which is, I think, an amazing facility. I think, ours is the gold standard in our county, at least, and the number of programs they offer, and it's fantastic. Then that night, attended the Seroptimus International Live Your Dream Award dinner. That organization is something that's close to my heart, as my late wife was the founder. It's a great event, and I was impressed at what they've gotten to. And I think they gave out grants to 12 or it was 12 young women who were trying to make a better future of their lives. It was a really meaningful dinner and great organization what they're doing. Saturday, that was a lot of fun. The Read Across America, the library. I wasn't quite as animated as Councilmember Rhodes. I picked a much simpler book that I think the kids might have followed a little easier. Because we were talking some very young kids. And that's my report. So at this time, and there was one other thing I wanted to talk about. We talked about how the rain and the cold weather was good for our water supply in the future. I, for one, do miss the warmer weather. But what that brought was a lot of flooded streets, a lot of clogged storm drains, branches or trees falling. And so I just wanted to reach out and thank our public works staff who worked during that miserable weather to clear all these problems. And they did a really good job of staying on top of it. So at this point, I would like to call for any future agenda items. Councilmember Rhodes.
Yeah, just a question. I don't know if it goes all the way to a future agenda item or a report, but that legislation that was mentioned earlier today, moving forward, is that something that we as a body should be looking at, or can we get some information about it?
Actually, the council did take a position on it in February of last year to support it. So we can put that in, we can send it to you just as a reminder of the action you took.
Okay, good.
Okay. So at this point, I'd like to adjourn this meeting in memory of Christopher Latham, Public Works Transit Operations Manager, Niels Winther, retired SVPD Reserve Officer, and Tyler Rich, retired SVPD volunteer. Thank you. We're adjourned.